this to me feels like a scam in a lot of ways. I get it. It has to come here.
Yeah.
But the cost by the time it gets here, it's obviously marked up in Ontario, not just the processing and shipping, but there's a markup there that Albertans probably didn't bargain for. This is tplmedia.ca, tplmedia.ca, local, because, we're now in your neighborhood likely, so check that out. And please don't forget to subscribe. Support the network. It's super cheap, and you become part of the conversation. Today, the conversation is, well, it's on the tip of everyone's tongue. A couple of weeks ago, the Prime Minister came out with a national strategy for food, and to kind of dig deeper on that and see where we stand, our very own food professor. Thank you very much, Paul Micucci, for joining us. We've had the food professor on before.
Yeah. I won't proclaim to be the food professor, but I do. You know what? I think I mentioned on previous shows, Mike. I grew up and I worked actually at a place called Canada Packers, which is a food processing plant in Toronto. And it was a very interesting experience when I was young.
Paint the picture for me, because that seems to me like a tough job.
So 5,000 people basically would go to work in this plant, and it was right by the stockyards, which is on St. Clair Avenue down in Toronto. Rail cars would come in, the cattle would come off, it would go to the kill, and then basically they would, it would go to slaughter, and then from slaughter, it would actually go into the line. They would cut up, cattle into every piece you can imagine and use every piece. And then the hinds of beef would be put into the freezers and then loaded onto trucks. And then there was bacon, there was cold meats, there was cheese. There was all kinds of different divisions that were, and then Guns Road, which was on the back, is where the hooves and all the other things were melted down. So the smell.
Yeah, it was a tough neighborhood to be in, man.
It's gone now.
It is, yeah.
It's gone now. And quite frankly, there's a whole story to that, because it actually became a housing development that was built on top of it, which I don't even know how, but it was. And quite frankly, I know I'm not living there anytime soon.
No, that neighborhood still has a certain stench to it. I'll be honest with you at times, yeah.
Well, Guns Road still exists, so there still are some food processing, or there's still some things happening on the back with respect to leather and animals. So there is a slight smell, not even compared to what it was before. But, I used to get out of my car and it was just wretched, the first half hour, just not like to be sick going in. And we used to go in, so interesting, and I'll tie it up, but it was an interesting story. We used to go through and we used to get our whites. And it was basically a jacket, a white jacket, white pants. And because I had graduated from the kill area, the stockyards, where they used to bring the cattle over and the kill line into night loading, I used to get this white hat. And it was because you're working in a freezer all night, right? So it was warm clothes. And I used to start off, and I used to get my meat hooks. So they get my meat. Everyone got 2 meat hooks who worked in loading. And all night long, the guy would be up on a perch, and you would walk over, and it'd be the number on it for the truck you were loading, and you would put your meat hooks in, and he would knock the hind of beef off onto your shoulder, and you would carry it across the loading dock and drop it into the trucks all night. So you do 8 to 10 hours a night of.
That's pretty manual labor.
That was really manual labor, and
carrying beef on your shoulders is a heavy job.
And there were, it's interesting, and that's how strong. So they used to call them the bull hunk gang, which were the guys who did it full time, and they were these little, Eastern European, Italian, these little guys, but they were all muscled, like 100%, and that's what they did all night. And they would joke around throughout the night, and they would actually carry like 100-pound, 150-pound hind of beef with no hands on their shoulders, and they would do all this crazy stuff. And so my dad, which is interesting because my dad, was a truck driver, and he had trucks and worked there. Basically he would come in and he would show off also, and he would grab like 150, 200 pound hinds of beef, and he would throw them on each shoulder, and he would carry them across the dock and put them on and that's how strong these guys were. Because this is dead.
It's a different era, man.
This is dead weight.
Yeah.
Right. So I ate, you think I wouldn't eat red meat, but I did eat a lot of red meat because I was around it the whole time. And the interesting thing, when we got ready for this show, I said to Christoph, when we were doing the prep, I said, out of curiosity, what are people in Alberta, Ontario, and Nova Scotia paying for top sirloin?
Well,
on Canada Day.
I mean, this is almost a luxury item for Canadians now. It's priced so high.
Oh, yeah. Well, it's crazy because I know, whether, and I'm not even talking, here's the thing. I'm not even talking grass-fed. I'm not even talking organic. I'm just talking.
Just regular store
chemically stimulated, chemically grown cattle, right? Which, they don't even get any regular grass, right? So you're paying $30. So in Alberta, they're paying $30 a kilogram.
What are we paying in Ontario?
Well, the interesting thing is we're paying less than Ontario.
The beef comes from Alberta, Paul.
Yeah, I know, but we're processing it, right? Again, this is like oil, right? Or gas, oil and gas. But this is like the same thing. It goes down to Montana, gets processed,
and we buy it
send it back at a premium.
So Albertans are sending their the cattle to Ontario or wherever.
Yeah.
It's being processed, and they're buying it back at higher than we're paying retail rates for the cattle that came from that province.
Yeah, I don't know if they actually talk about it a lot in Alberta and the West Coast. But why are they paying higher rates per kilogram than we are in Ontario?
That's
interesting.
Remarkable.
So, which is crazy. And Nova Scotia, quite frankly, the same. Now, Nova Scotia makes sense. The East Coast a little bit because the logistics to get there. Yeah. I understand that. But the West Coast, quite frankly, the logistics can't be that difficult, right? It's not that far, especially when it's coming from there. So I don't know why it's not like $4 or $5 cheaper. But anyways,
that logistics cost must be so huge, or it's being justified that way.
Ground beef, the same. So having a hamburger in Alberta is just as expensive as having a hamburger on the East Coast. Ontario, it's cheaper. It's cheaper by about $2.
Processed, volume, distribution.
Exactly.
Right.
Hot dogs.
But you think, I'm so sorry, but you think that would be still not enough to make it more expensive than its source province.
Yeah.
That to me is just ridiculous. I mean, you're factoring in, this to me feels like a scam in a lot of ways. I get it. It has to come here.
Yeah.
But the cost by the time it gets here, it's obviously marked up in Ontario, not just the processing and shipping, but there's a markup there that Albertans probably didn't bargain for.
Yeah, I was shocked, to tell you the truth. But we were out in remember, that was the interesting thing. Our trip out to Calgary, and when we were eating in restaurants, it was the same price.
It was, yeah.
So we were going to steakhouses. We were having, great barbecue. It was the same or more than we would pay in Toronto. So we weren't finding any incremental difference in food costs from a restaurant perspective. So obviously the restaurants weren't passing down any savings they were getting, and they're not. But it doesn't.
I don't think they are.
Any savings. No. So they were eating the $2 extra a kilogram and charging market rate what you'd pay in any major city in Canada.
You know what's interesting that you say this is Albertans. You're right. I don't hear this from them. We hear it about oil and gas, and frankly, the last time I was in Calgary about less than a month ago. Mm-hmm. Gas was almost the same price that it was in any other province.
I was shocked.
I thought to myself, wow, that's remarkable. Well, I get it. Now when Albertans complain, I'm starting to get it.
I know, me too. Well, it's funny because we did that show where we went through across the nation and we looked at the price per liter of gas. Remember, and we went to the Middle East and we're like, you guys corrected me on the show, which I was astonished I was so wrong. You guys like it's 6 cents a liter and stuff. And I'm like, 6 cents. And
you guys are crazy.
I was at like 80 cents and you're like, no, it's 6. And I'm like, and then you were right. Yeah. And when we dug into it and I was like, wow, that's crazy. You come to the west coast of Canada, same price we're paying everywhere else. So
food's just one of those markers that there's no benefit to being any particular place in Canada. Real estate's really the last bastion for that. And even it's not making that big a difference now.
Yeah. Well, and so the interesting, when we dug into it a little further, then we dig into it a little further. And what do we find? Food inflation in Canada is actually the highest in the G7.
So we are one of the lowest producing countries in the G7. Our GDP is garbage, and our food inflation is the highest in the G7.
Yeah. So, if you look at it, we've seen basically in grocery stores, year over year, we've seen a 4.3% increase. So the highest food inflation amongst the G7 countries. And then you look at things like that are